Hello everyone, this is my Module 8 case study. To give you a little summary of the case study, we have a student, Carl. He's been diagnosed with a behavior disorder, and the student has been brought to the attention of Susan Green, who is the new special education teacher at the school. The school is in a small community, and it doesn't have the resources to really support her. The superintendent oversees a whole bunch of schools. Administration and a lead teacher, they kind of bounce around from school to school, so she doesn't have really the support she needs. She just replaced a teacher who had been teaching there for 25 years, and on the 6th week of school, Nancy Taylor approached her about Carl and the difficulty that she's having with him in class. Just a little background on Taylor. She's been there for 10 years. And they first met at an IEP meeting, and Taylor tried to tell Green how to run an IEP. Taylor wants Carl out of the classroom because she fears for herself and her students. She explains that the accommodations that have been made for the intervention for Carl aren't working, and she just would like, and in the past, Carl has just been removed from the classroom, or students like Carl have been removed from the classroom from the previous special education teacher. Green has explained to Taylor that that's not the accommodations that Carl needs. She's gone and talked to important people in the district to support and came up with a new plan, met with the parents. But the parents have gone through a divorce, and it doesn't seem like Carl has much support. And everyone's kind of just at a loss for what to do with Carl. So what we do know is that Carl has a behavior disorder, and that's partly come on because of the divorce at home. And we know that Susan Green has done what she needed to do as far as developing an IEP for Carl, and then getting feedback that it didn't work, was going through how to reassess, and got parents involved again, and we're sitting down for another meeting for an IEP to get more accommodations, which then segues in the last is that she's receiving support from administration and the district. What we still need to know, though, is the classroom. And for Green to effectively make accommodations for Carl, she needs to gather more data and see what makes him so aggressive in class. Green also needs to meet with Carl to understand kind of what's going on at home and how that might be influence his classroom behavior. And then lastly, Green needs to discuss with Taylor, the classroom teacher, what accommodations she's using and what's causing her all the frustration in the class. And the problem is that Nancy Taylor is consumed by Carl's behavior, and so that's impacting her ability to prep, plan, and teach. It's affecting the other students in the classroom, and it's also creating a problem for Carl, like in the last one. The current accommodations, Carl is continuing to be a disruption, and he's not receiving an education. The only other problem, too, is that our special education teacher and our regular education teacher are not getting along and not working together to create a community and collaborate with one another. So steps to solve the problem. Excuse me. Step 1. I would say the biggest one would be establish empathy for Carl. Susan needs to meet with Nancy and discuss the importance of inclusion, of having students with special needs in the classroom and how that helps all students in the classroom. And then there needs to be a dialogue, not just one-sided, not one person yelling at the other, on how they can support all of the students in the classroom. Strategies to do this. I feel that Green still needs to go in and observe the classroom on several occasions and collect data and go over what the current accommodations are and see what really is working and what is not working. Green also needs to provide Taylor some resources. I'm sure that some of that has to do with the prior special education teacher. And so Green just needs to give some of the tricks that she has, some of the resources she has to work with Carl in the classroom. And then last, I know that the resources are limited, but Green needs to provide Taylor a paraprofessional in there devoted solely to Carl's learning experience. Step 2, Carl needs some social and emotional support. So he needs some adults in his life that will help him talk through his emotions. And I know that resources are limited, but he needs some access to counseling to help with the challenges at home. Strategies to do this. I would say that Green needs to encourage the parents to have a meeting for Carl with a therapist or a counselor. Green also needs to encourage Taylor to allow Carl to kind of practice those social skills, and he's not going to be 100% all the time, but to have realistic goals for what he can achieve in the classroom. And then I would also say that Green needs to set up one-on-one meetings with Carl. She and Carl can go over how the day went and what goals they want to have for the next day. Step 3. So Susan also needs to address the challenges, because Nancy can't be the only one in the school. So she needs to address the challenges that are going on school-wide and kind of take the responsibility of being the special education teacher and providing those resources for all the teachers. So she needs to go into all classrooms all over the school and kind of see how teachers are teaching various students and the accommodations that they're providing their students. Because there seems to be a very large lack of leadership at the school, and this would create an opportunity for Green to step in and kind of help in the special education world. So strategies for this, I would say that Green will observe other teachers and collect the data and see what accommodations are working for them, how they're working with students with behavior disorders. I would say Green also needs to provide strategies for all of the classroom teachers, and I would say that that would best be done during a professional development day. I'm sure that the resources that she has would be greatly appreciated by all staff members. And then lastly, I would say that she needs to sit down with the district principals, superintendent, and kind of figure out what her role should be at that school as a special education teacher. So the resolution. I would say that first and foremost, it's extremely important, and I would say that the number one goal is to make sure that the well-being and education of the students is provided to every student. And so I think the idea of pulling out a student because their behavior is off is extremely inappropriate. And the only way that we can ensure that all the students are receiving education is by having them in the room with the teacher who knows the content. So Carl needs to stay in Taylor's classroom. But when it comes to Carl receiving the proper accommodations, we need to make sure that we're collecting the data, we're looking back over how well he's adjusting in class, and make adjustments to his accommodations to ensure that he's actually growing as a learner and developing those behavior skills, the appropriate and positive behavior skills that we want in class. We also need to encourage Carl to grow in that social and emotional support. Meet with a counselor, meet with a therapist, and go over the kind of the triggers and what happens with his emotions during class and how he can cope and strategies to move past that. And then the last resolution, what it would provide is it would provide a plan for Nancy to approach students in her classroom, because this isn't going to be the first or the last student that she will be challenged with in the classroom. It will also give Susan the ability to get into more of a leadership role her first year of school. So I think this is a tough situation for all involved, and I would say that Green needs to stand firm in what she knows. She's fresh out of school, she has great ideas, but even though she's a new teacher, she needs to understand that she has the resources as the special ed teacher for those regular ed classrooms, and she needs to provide those accommodations to teachers. I would also say that I think that the two of them, Green and Taylor, need to sit down and have a real conversation as to what their role is and how they can develop their relationship moving forward. For the most part, number one, I feel bad for Carl. I feel like sometimes teachers and parents can get caught up in like some drama and let that get in the way of the education of a child. I would also say that taking students out of the room, I feel like that's extremely inappropriate. The student belongs in the room to receive an education. And then we need to be aware of all the students in our classroom. So what I value is the idea of children are the most important, and we must protect the child's education and social and emotional growth. And as an administrator, I feel that we need to make sure that we don't spend too long trying to figure out the accommodations and all of the things that we need to do to provide the education for the students. We need to just meet, resolve the issue, and move forward. And then we also need to, when we're doing that, we need to do it swift and efficiently, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we are keeping the students safe and value them at school. So unresolved issues. Carl's behavior is still the way it is in class, and we don't really know how his academics are currently going. We don't know about the access to counselors or therapists or the parents' view on those resources. And we don't know kind of the relationship of Susan Green and Nancy Taylor and what that will look like in the future. A little reflection on me as an administrator and how I would tackle this situation. To talk about the promote academic success for every student, I would say first and foremost would be accommodations, would be establishing a plan, understanding the student's disorder and understanding how to properly address that in the classroom. I would say that we also, as administrators, need to make sure that we provide Susan and Nancy the opportunity to collaborate and team teach and use the resources that they have. Also, I think it's extremely important to provide opportunities for teachers to lead and share their expertise and value what they have to say. I would also say for personal well-being of every student, we need to focus on three things. The social and emotional growth of the student. We need to understand and encourage Carl to visit a counselor. We need to encourage all students to visit counselors and therapists to better understand their emotions and how to deal with it. We also need to open up our classroom to all students and all learning abilities. And we also need to provide the classroom teacher with resources and support so that way the instruction is thorough and provides the best information for all students in the classroom. And then lastly, how do myself as a school leader enhance instructional capacity? I would say through three things: professional development, leadership, and accountability. Give teachers the opportunity to collaborate with one another and share their information. Be a leader in the school, lead by example, visit classrooms. When you're in the classroom, provide support and strategies in order to help every teacher reach every student. And then the last and probably the most important is once you've gone into the classroom and provided strategies and support and you've given teachers the opportunity to have professional development and collaborate with one another and share resources, is to ensure accountability. Follow up and make sure that teachers are doing what they're supposed to be doing and that their classrooms are functioning the way they should be, and that students aren't being taken out of the classroom because of behavior. And that's my case study, and thank you so much for listening.